All right, Nuggets fans, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at FanDuel. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready. I am excited. It is NBA week, the debut week for the NBA season, and I'm excited to discuss the Denver Nuggets and some different numbers that I have planned for this upcoming show. I have an exact win prediction that you can probably guess if you are looking on the screen. I will be talking about Denver's placement in the Western Conference, as well as a couple of other things, including the extension deadline that the Nuggets are facing today with their rookie extension guys, their guys entering their fourth year, as well as one other that I don't think has gotten enough shine. We'll talk about that. I'll share some bold NBA takes at the end. Should be a fun show. Hope everybody is having a good Monday morning. There is plenty to go over for this upcoming season. There will be a season preview show that I do. Not really season preview. It's season opener preview that I will do. And I'm going to do that on Wednesday morning, not Tuesday morning like normal. The schedule this week is weird, so I'll be going on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, as opposed to Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, because it just makes more sense to go on Wednesday, Friday, Sunday for a variety of reasons. But you will get the same number of shows from me that you normally do. They'll just pop into your feed at a slightly different time. But yeah, let's get into it. I wrote this morning on Mile High Sports an article that you should definitely check out. I'm going to actually, we'll share the actual URL in the show description as well. Why the Nuggets will win exactly 58 games for this upcoming season. Yeah, I'm dropping it in there as we speak. Nuggets will win 58 games. I think it's going to be a very interesting year. It's going to be a very interesting year for the Denver Nuggets, and there are a variety of factors that I think are pulling them in an upward direction, but also maybe you should keep your expectations a little bit tepid. You've got some new faces. You have some new chemistry that has to be established. The Nuggets are going to be going through this process. I wrote in that story about a variety of different things, but the most important of them at the top is that the foundation is still very strong. Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, they represent Denver's core right now until Christian Braun signs. He is not in the core. Jokic, Murray, Gordon are the core players for the Nuggets, and it's pretty difficult to get more stable than Jokic and what he provides. But with Murray and Gordon, Murray's been so positive in this preseason, this training camp area, that if he brings that into the regular season from the jump, as opposed to in like game 20, game 25, game 30, or whatever it is, the Nuggets are going to benefit from that. They are absolutely going to be better earlier on than many expect, given the new faces that they are also going to see. The other thing, Aaron Gordon was not healthy for the entire year last year. He was dealing with soft tissue injuries for the vast majority of the time. And Aaron Gordon is so important to what the Nuggets are and can help them in so many different ways that if you get him healthy for that entire time, or at least for 65, 70 games, then you're going to benefit from a win-loss perspective. The Nuggets know what he means to their group. They know what he can do on a consistent basis, and having that trio out there is going to be important. If that is out there, then they'll be able to mix and match whoever else into the group, into the mix, and feel really good about the results. But the thing that really starts to up this is the new faces. You've got Cam Johnson, Jonas Valanciunas, Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr. They're all expected to play significant roles to varying degrees, but especially in the regular season. Cam Johnson's going to take some time as a starter. We know that it's going to take a little bit more time with him. He'll be a little bit slower on the jump than somebody like a Tim Hardaway Jr. or a Bruce Brown or a Jonas Valanciunas. Like their role is a little bit more stable. It's a little bit more like non-variable in terms of what they're going to be facing from night to night. Cam Johnson's going to be facing a lot of questions. He's going to have to answer a lot of questions. The Nuggets starting unit, depending on how teams guard Jokic, depending on how aggressive Murray's going to be, Cam Johnson's role with that group might change. But I think over the course of the first 15 or so games, he'll figure it out. He'll understand what the ebbs and flows are going to be. He'll understand the patterns and the recognition of what it looks like when Jokic is being doubled on a consistent basis versus when he's being single covered, how Cam Johnson can impact the game on a consistent basis from that spot. And by that ending period, or certainly by the middle of the season, I think it's going to look really great. I think he's going to be one of those guys that is tepidly surprising at the beginning, but sort of like a flamethrower towards the end. And Nuggets fans are going to benefit from that. We'll see what it ultimately looks like from the perspective of points, rebounds, assists, things of that nature. But I think that just going into the year, you know that Cam Johnson's going to bring a new layer. The question is when it's going to be all figured out. And with Valanciunas, Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., this is just a nice reminder. Like in that spot, Denver was using Russell Westbrook, Julian Strawther, and a combination of DeAndre Jordan and Zeke Naji last year. They can do better, and I think that they have done better. Just from a stability perspective, Strawther's still on the team, though, and because you add so many guys, because you add so many different pieces, guys like Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett, Zeke Naji now, like the pressure is lessened because from a week-to-week, month-to-month basis, they're not going to have to be in a situation where you have to play all the time, at least knock on wood. You hope like that they would be more ready a year older and a year more kind of understanding of what the process is going to be, what the expectation is, but it's not a requirement. Denver can deploy them in a strategic way as opposed to deploying them in a mandatory way. And that to me, I think is a massive, massive positive for what the Nuggets are expected to do. Next is the different stages of the young core. The young core I have as Christian Braun, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett, and Deron Holmes. It's funny, all five of those guys are in their second to fourth seasons, but they're all at completely different points of where they would be from the second to fourth season and what that means for their NBA career. Christian Braun is basically stamped. The question is how much money he's going to get, not whether he's going to get money. Peyton Watson is really close to getting money, but it's not going to be as much, and there's still plenty of opportunity for him to grow. Julian Strawther, we don't know. Like we're still trying to figure out what he's going to be at the NBA level. Jalen Pickett, I think I know what he's going to be at the NBA level, but it's kind of halfway between, okay, you're going to be either a standard backup point guard or you're going to be an emergency third guard. And those two things are different in terms of how much money and what the role is going to be on a consistent basis. And then Deron Holmes is a complete wild card in terms of what the expectation is going to be coming off that Achilles tear. He's not expected to play. Jalen Pickett's not really expected to play. Strawther is expected to play, but probably not as much as he would want and not as much as some would want. Peyton Watson has a major role. Christian Braun, of course, has a significant role with this team. I think that overall, the Nuggets are going to rely on those guys to get the boost from the main group. Like, you know what the veterans are going to be. You know what the foundational guys are going to be. You know what the new faces are going to look like. What do the young guys look like? How do they differ from the previous seasons? And what can they do going forward to make that look good? Real one, I will answer your question in the next segment when I get to the Brown and Watson extensions. I think that for the upcoming season, like, whether it's going to, like, I think the young core guys, they're going to be pretty critical in terms of whether the Nuggets are going to win 50 games or 60 games. Because you know what the main vets are going to do. As long as they are healthy, I think that it's pretty understanding what they're going to look like. I think that depending on how soon Cam Johnson and the new guys kind of fit into what Denver's doing, yeah, Denver might trend towards the upward part of that, whether it's 55 games, 56 games, 57 games, whatever. But the real differentiator is going to be, can the young guys fill in the gaps around what the main group is going to look like? Can they provide a little bit of juice? Can they provide a little bit of extra oomph there? I think that if the starters ever go down, if they ever need a break, like I think what I wrote in the article, Denver can't just rely on their veterans if they want to excel in the regular season and be fresh for the playoffs. It takes a village to be successful. The young guys are going to have to stand in at some point. They're not going to have as much burden as they did previously, but they will have some burden. They will have some expectation. What will that look like? Can they step up to the table? Like, is Julian Strawther ready to really change more games than he did in the previous season? Can Christian Braun carry more playmaking and scoring responsibility? Or can he lock in and be a better defender? Can Peyton Watson handle more playmaking responsibility? Can he do more at the NBA level? Is Jalen Pickett going to be ready sooner than he was during last season, or be used a little bit sooner than he was last season? Can Deron Holmes help at all? These are all important questions. So if Denver gets more than expected from the young group, then they'll trend closer to 60 wins. If they get less, they'll trend closer to 50. Then finally, like, Denver has a very easy start to the schedule. It is shockingly easy. The middle is very difficult. The ending is very home heavy, and like that's probably a time where they have to win some games. But the middle of the schedule is just an absolute pain. Usually that is when Denver excels, but I think that might have to change for this upcoming season. I think that for Denver, like, usually they are in January and February is when they excel. That's when they really lock in and they get a lot of wins. But that, like, this year, if they wait until January or February to lock in, they will win closer to 50 games and not closer to 60. They have to excel at the beginning because, as I wrote in the story, the first 28 games that the Nuggets play from October 23rd until December 22nd, basically the first 2 months of the NBA calendar, they'll play 28 games and they have a rest disadvantage for 4 of those matchups. 4. That's it. It's not a lot. It's actually a really good situation. And I'm not even just talking back-to-backs. They only have 3 back-to-backs, but they have a rest disadvantage in just 4 games. So could Denver take advantage of that? They'll be more rested, or at least equally rested with the other team for 24 out of the 28 games. So take advantage of the opportunity. It's going to be tough. Like, you're going to be on a flight a lot of that time, and that does add to the mileage for sure. But it is a generous schedule, and then it gets more challenging. So I hope Denver takes advantage of it. If they do, if they can go 20-8 during those first 28 games, or if they go 21-7, or if they go 19-9, or somewhere in that general range, that'll be a good benefit for them. If they want to actually win like 58 games, it has to happen. It is a requirement, because those next 35 games or so, Denver's probably going to go about 20-15. It'll be a little bit tougher. It's just, that's how it's going to be. So can they handle themselves? Can they do what they need to do at the beginning of the season? Can they hit the ground running as opposed to easing into the year? I think is a very fair question. So if they can, I think it's 58 wins. I think they are in a good place to be able to do that. If it is not, then it's probably going to be closer to 53, 52, maybe in that general range. They'll get a couple win boost based off of where they finished last season, but it really does matter how they start the year to me. So we'll see whether they can do it, but that's what I have. I think that 58 wins is a good number. If you are curious at different tiers for the actual wins that the Nuggets could get and whether it makes sense to bet them at certain places, according to FanDuel, the Nuggets are minus 104 to earn 55 wins. And if you wanted 60, they are plus 310. I've seen a lot of people saying that they could win 60. I'm a little bit more shaky on that because it really does take a whole bunch of stability and a whole bunch of process to be able to go through and to really take care of business. I don't think that they're going to get to that. I think they'll pace for 60 at various points, but they'll lose a little bit later. And there will probably be some things that you're a little bit shaky about. But ultimately, I think that 58 wins is the right number. As Cody says in the comments, 58 is the franchise record. 58 would be a significant opportunity for Denver. If they were able to get to 58 wins, that would feel like, okay, you've really accomplished something here, even before the playoffs actually began. Obviously, Denver is very focused on the playoffs. Winning a title is what really matters. But top 3 seeds win in the playoffs. Denver has to prove that they can get to that place, separate from the pack before you actually consider them a true title contender. I think that they will. I think that they'll be able to do it. If they aren't able to separate, it's going to be harder because they might end up being the 4 seed. They might have to fight through the very end of the finish line. I hope that they take advantage and they take care of business, because if they don't, it's going to be much more of a slog. But we'll see. We will see what happens. Let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to discuss the 2 seed, just why that makes the most sense for Denver, the Christian Braun and Peyton Watson extensions, as well as I've got 5 bold takes for this upcoming NBA season. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. This podcast is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone feel vulnerable. Data brokers, they profit off of your data. It's a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. Have you ever been the victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know someone who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to deleteme.com/hit and use promo code HIT at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and enter code HIT at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. There's, again, plenty of ways for you to kind of take a look at this season and how it is going to show up, how it is going to work. I'm pretty impressed with a lot of the ways that Denver has set themselves up this year. So much so that I think it is reasonable to lock it in. According to FanDuel, the Nuggets are plus 310 to be the 2 seed in the Western Conference this year. Plus 310 is the best odds in the NBA. OKC is plus 370. That would be on the off chance that one other team could pass them. But for Denver, plus 310 to be the 2 seed. Denver, by the way, also has the best odds to be the 3 seed. But I think it is built in with the idea that the most likely outcome is they are the 2 seed. And to me, it makes sense. They will be able to have the baseline performance from what Jokic does, from what Murray's able to do on a consistent basis when he's out there. If Aaron Gordon is healthy enough, if Cam Johnson adds to the table at least a little bit early on and then can really take over some responsibility going forward, I think that they are most likely to finish as the 2 seed. And that is a tremendous, not just good, not just great, a tremendous spot for the Nuggets to be. You do not want to be stuck fighting for playoff position late in the year. You want to be able to rest down the stretch. You want to have done your work early to the point where you can really focus in and lock in on, okay, how does this look in the playoffs, as opposed to we have to survive the regular season to get a top 3 seed in the West. Hopefully what Denver has done over the course of the first 60 games of the NBA season or so will put them into that place where they're able to take care of that and they're able to get it done. It's going to take good health. It's going to take good performance. It's going to take a well-rounded effort from just about everybody involved. It is not just a Jokic thing. It is not just a David Alleman thing. It's not just a Murray thing. Like, everybody is going to have to pitch into that. And as long as Denver gets contributions from across the board, I do not see why they can't be the 2 seed in the West. I actually think it's the most likely outcome for Denver. And it's a great spot for them to be because they're also on the opposite side of the OKC Thunder in the Western Conference. Like, in the Western Conference playoff picture, teams are going to have to pick whether they want to face or be in OKC's side of the bracket or in Denver's side of the bracket. And that will cause a lot of questions heading into the playoff picture. Like, do you want to face a revamped Nuggets team, or do you want to face the OKC Thunder, who, while they did just win a championship, may or may not be considered a better matchup for different teams? I'm not sure what teams are going to be looking like. That'll be a this season kind of question. But if OKC wins 65 and Denver wins 58 and the 3 seed wins 54, like, that's a pretty good example. Obviously, teams might look sideways at Denver, be like, that's probably the easier matchup. But you sure you feel that way when Jokic is in the playoffs? You sure? You sure? Are you absolutely sure in that situation? I think that is a fair question. So I think that's a great spot for the Nuggets to be. They will have a great opportunity. And obviously, yeah, would it be better if they were the 1 seed? Sure. But OKC is going to have that on lock. They have so much depth. They have star power. They have a defensive foundation as opposed to an offensive foundation that I think is going to give them a boost in the regular season, even when their offense struggles a little bit. Denver's offense is not going to struggle that often, but when it does, I think they'll be more impacted from a win-loss standpoint against some of those good teams, as opposed to OKC, who can just clamp down on the defensive end. And they're going to be trying to prove that throughout the regular season, just like the Nuggets did in 2023-24. So I expect OKC to kind of go away with the wins, and that's okay. You do not need to win the most games in the regular season in order to win the title. The Nuggets just need to be in a comfortable place where they can approach the playoffs from a healthy way, as opposed to last year where they were just like, I don't know, guess we'll see. So we'll figure it out. It'll be good. Okay. I'm going to go back to Real One's question right now as we transition into the Christian Braun and Peyton Watson and Nuggets extensions portion of the show. Real One asks, Ryan, do you think that Fisher's reports that the Cronkies don't want to pay the tax at all? I was told only the second apron is a problem. By the way, the Cavs, Bucks are small market teams in the second apron. First, I actually don't think the Bucks are in the second apron. I think that they ducked the second apron. That was the only way that they were able to do what they did. Let me check on that just to make sure. Yes, the Cavs are in the second apron. How's that working out for them? Like they won a whole bunch of regular season games. It isn't a guarantee of playoff performance. Like spending the most money is never a guarantee that you are going to be in the like at the top of the league. Apron tracker. If we go to the apron tracker, Milwaukee is lower. They are at 178 mil for this upcoming season. They are not close. The only teams that are in the second apron for this upcoming season: Cleveland, New York, Dallas, Golden State, Minnesota, and Boston. Actually, no, that's not even true. I'm looking at second apron space here. The only teams that are actually in it are Cleveland and New York. Like, that's first apron space. That's what that is. The second apron this year is $207 million, 207.8. Cleveland is over it. New York is over it. The rest of the NBA is under it. I think what you are seeing from a regular season standpoint is that, and from a new era standpoint, is that the rest of the NBA is also fearful of the second apron. There have been teams that have been over. Like last year, for example, if I go back and look, there were 3 teams that were over. It was Phoenix, it was Minnesota, and it was Boston. Different teams than this past year. Phoenix, obviously, they needed to get out of the second apron. They were so disappointing. Minnesota, they did not retain Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They had an opportunity to do so, but they chose not to. They needed to duck the second apron because there are penalties for going back into it on multiple years, and they know that they're going to be very expensive for the vast majority of it. And then Boston, like they were over it, and we're going to be way over it for this upcoming season, and then Tatum got hurt. So I do not think that being in the second apron is a guarantee of success. And it's up to the NBA to figure out how to do it. Now, should Denver go into the second apron to retain their players? Yes. I think that they should. And that's what you're saying here. Okay, but don't let Peyton Watson go for nothing. That was my point. Yeah, no, I firmly agree. The question that Denver is facing right now at this point of the offseason, they do have another year before Christian Braun and Peyton Watson are actually restricted free agents. The key word is restricted. If Denver offers them and tenders a qualifying offer, then they are restricted free agents, which means the Nuggets have the right to first refusal if the Nuggets, like if another team signs one of those guys to a deal. And so what that often means and what that often looks like is opposing teams don't necessarily want to send an offer sheet for a player unless they guarantee that that player is going to be there. So, and that player is going to not be matched by what the Nuggets are doing. It's been a while since a team has actually matched a restricted free agency offer that another team has put out there for one of their players. It just doesn't happen that much anymore. And so what I think is ultimately going to happen in that situation, if Denver doesn't get a deal done, they'll figure something out with Christian Braun and Peyton Watson. He will either have to bet on himself by signing the 1-year qualifying offer next year, or a team will offer and Denver will have the opportunity to sign a deal with him and to match that salary. If that happens, then great. I wouldn't expect it to get to that point. If another team is offering a deal and offering Peyton Watson a contract, it's probably because Denver's not willing to sign that contract. So I think Denver will let the market dictate for Peyton Watson. But the deadline for today, as I'm recording this at 10:32 a.m. Mountain Time, the deadline, I believe, is 4 o'clock Mountain Time. I could be wrong about that. I know Bobby Marks just put out the deadline earlier, but it's during the middle. It's during the late afternoon today. I think that, yeah, I'm gonna look this up just so we just so we are sure. 6 p.m. Eastern is the deadline to sign a player to a rookie extension. So we'll know by 4 p.m. today if the Nuggets are going to bring back Christian Braun and Peyton Watson. My expectation, and there was a report by Jake Fisher that there's pessimism. There was also a report by another person from Hoops Hype that there is optimism that a deal will get done, kind of in that 5-year 115 range, 5-year 125 range. I don't think that the Nuggets will sign Christian Braun to a deal that is average annual value of above like $28 million. That's not something they're willing to do. I think that they want to sign Christian Braun, and Christian Braun also wants to be a Nugget. I do think those teams are very, like, those two things are both true. And deadlines often have a factor of being able to bring those those differences together. They'll be able to compromise in some way, shape, or form. I still think it probably looks like 5 years, 125 million. Maybe Denver gives Christian a little bit of flexibility on the end of that. If it is 125, maybe they make it a player option. If it is 135, 5 years, 135 million, then maybe they make it a partial guarantee. Maybe there is a middle ground. Maybe they go for a slightly shorter amount of time. I don't think that that's likely from Denver's perspective. They want to keep that cap number low and extend out the years if they can. I would expect that to be the most likely situation for them. So I do think that a Christian Braun deal gets done today in these next few hours, and then I'll podcast about it at some point. The Peyton Watson deal, it is almost entirely contingent on whether the Nuggets are going to do it, on whether they're going to sign Christian Braun. If they don't sign Christian, maybe it's more likely that Peyton gets a deal. I don't think they get both of those done. It does seem like the second apron is a major concern for Denver. So unless they get Christian to sign for a pretty team-friendly number and they get Peyton Watson to sign for a pretty team-friendly number, then I wouldn't expect them to make that happen. Like, if they can get those two for a combined 35 million average annual value, I think that that's a pretty great deal for Denver, because those guys, as young players in the NBA, are going to keep getting better and keep improving, like, most likely. And if they outperform those contracts, then Denver's got some valuable deals for young, versatile wings that could really help and really be helpful for other teams. There is this notion that Christian Braun would not be as valuable to other teams in the way that he is to Nikola Jokic and to the Nuggets. I got to be honest, I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, because while Jokic is obviously extremely valuable for somebody of Christian Braun's specific skill set, it doesn't mean that Christian Braun couldn't be successful in the rest of the league. Like, go to New York, go to Cleveland, go to Minnesota playing off of Anthony Edwards, go to Boston playing off of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Could he be the connector in Los Angeles with the Lakers or with the Clippers? Probably. Like, could he adapt his game to be successful with those guys? Yeah, I would guess he could. Would he be quite as successful? I don't know. That's a question for another day. But I do think that for elite teams, for good teams, Christian Braun can be useful. Like, he'll be very, very successful. For average teams that need him to be their third best player, or even bad teams that need him to be their second best player, yeah, it's probably not a great deal. But Christian Braun is a winner, and he's going to play for a winning team. And if he's not playing for a winning team, it's probably going to look worse. So there's plenty of players that are going to look better in that situation. But Christian Braun, I think specifically, looks really good in that environment. So we'll see what happens. But I do think that Denver gets a Christian Braun deal done today, and Peyton Watson will probably have to wait until the summer. Also, I think that Cam Johnson is also eligible today. an opportunity for a deal expires at the end of the day. I believe that one is midnight Eastern or 10 p.m. Mountain. I don't think that they get that deal done. We haven't heard a darn thing about whether they're going to extend Cam Johnson or not. So I do not expect that to happen. It seems like they're going to be willing to play that one out before committing to anything long term. I get why they want to maintain flexibility. They want to see how it works before they commit major financial dollars. If they were to sign a deal, maybe something like 3 years, 80 million, 3 years, 90 million makes some sense. It's not a longer term thing. It would be a shorter term deal as opposed to Christian Braun, who you want to sign for as long as possible. But we'll see. We'll see whether they can actually get something done. I think it's most likely just Christian Braun, not Nikola Jokic, obviously, who is eligible, but he's not going to sign. Cam Johnson, who is a veteran, they're probably going to make weight. And Peyton Watson, they're probably going to have earn in restricted free agency. Okay. 5 bold NBA takes before we get out of here. We're going to do this for one of them. And then I'll do more season preview content and season opener preview content in the next show, as well as kind of a reaction to whatever the extension deals, like what that ultimately happens to be. Number one, around the NBA, not just with the Nuggets. Number one, bold prediction. The Rockets are going to have 2 All-Stars, and they're going to be Alperen Şengün and Amen Thompson. They will not be Kevin Durant, which will be very weird for a lot of people. Like it's going to be very interesting. I do not think, and like this could change, obviously, but if Kevin Durant is not super healthy and the Rockets are going into this upcoming season with high expectations, they're going to find ways to win. The question is how they do it. And I do think that for KD, if he's not healthy, they're going to have to find other opportunities for players to be successful around him, for guys that do the dirty work around him. KD is going to be more of a scorer. He's not necessarily going to be an all-around impact option for them, I don't think. I think he's going to be there to score. I think he'll be there to maybe set the table for some other people, but that's it. If he is out, I know that Şengün's going to be there. They're going to be a team that's towards the top of the West, and they're going to get some pretty high-level contributions from him throughout this year. He looked amazing in Eurobasket. I think that continues into the NBA season. And then Amen Thompson, he's going to start. The question is what his role is going to look like if Reed Shepherd is not going to be their starter, and if it's going to be somebody like Tari Eason or somebody else, then Amen Thompson's going to probably average around 17 to 18 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. It's going to be crazy stuff. And on top of it, he's going to be an amazing perimeter defender as he was last year. He's an all-around absolute weapon, and they are just it's going to be a fun duo to watch for Şengün and Amen Thompson. Amen's going to grow. The question is how fast he's going to grow, what those growing pains are going to look like. If he does what I kind of expect him to do, it's going to be immediately great. Number 2, the Cleveland Cavaliers will win 60-plus games again, and they'll be the best team in the East again, and nobody's going to care. Nope, nobody. Not a single person is going to be like, oh, wow, yeah, that's great. It's unfortunate because they have cried wolf basically the last couple of seasons. A couple of years ago, they were the 4 seed. They had some injuries, obviously. That definitely changed the feeling of who they were. Last year, they won 65, 66, somewhere in that general range. They traded for DeAndre Hunter during the middle of the year. It looked like everything was coming up aces for them. And then they experienced some injuries again, and the Indiana Pacers absolutely throttled them in the second round, and it just wasn't close. They were dead. They were dead in the water. The burden of proof is just on that team to prove that they deserve the attention, to prove that they can move past the second round, to prove that they can excel deep into the playoffs as every team starts to really focus in. Hopefully they stay healthy. Hopefully they play and go about things the right way. If they do, like, there's no reason why they can't come out of the East and be an amazing team. Like, they should be a title threat. I think they have the second best odds on FanDuel because, like, the East is so derelict of every possible threat to them. So, can they take advantage of that? Will they actually be the team that rises out of there? It's them, it's the Knicks, maybe it's Orlando, maybe it's Atlanta, maybe it's Detroit, Milwaukee, Boston. Like, it starts to get real shaky real fast. So it should be the Cavs. If it's not the Cavs, that is a problem. Number 3, the Golden State Warriors are going to start the season slow. I looked at their schedule, and I do think they're a little bit more overburdened from a scheduling perspective early on in the season than they are later in the year. But I think that they'll be an absolute unit after like the first 30 games or so. They'll probably be pretty average for the first 30, and then they're going to take off. And I think they'll probably parlay that into about a top 5, top 6 spot in the West, because the West is going to be hard. Like, I don't think they'll catch the Nuggets. I don't think they'll catch the Thunder, obviously. Could they catch the Clippers, the Lakers, the Rockets, the Wolves? Yes. Could they catch all of those teams? Sure. I don't think they finished third, though. I think that they're probably closer to the 5th seed or so. And they'll be tough. They'll be a tough out for anybody, but they will also probably be on OKC's side of the bracket for that reason. And that'll be OKC's problem to deal with. I think OKC will deal with that pretty well. Number 4, kind of a downer, but I think it needs to be said. None of Jason Tatum, Damian Lillard, Tyrese Halliburton, or Kyrie Irving are going to come back this season. Like, all of those fan bases, all of those franchises, except for the Pacers, who I think understand what this year is going to be. Like, Hallie tore his Achilles in the middle of June. He is not coming back from that in like March. That's not happening. Like, they're going to take their time with it. Tatum is working his way back. He's going to try to get there. I just don't see how they justify bringing him back, other than maybe for like the final 5 to 10 games of the season, just to try to get him some game reps. But it's not going to be a serious like recovery where, oh my gosh, now we're going to win. Now we're going to like be awesome. I think it's going to be a very low pressure environment. It's kind of similar to where Brandon Clark came back a couple of years ago. It is not going to be with the intention of making major moves. And then Damian Lillard is out for the year. Kyrie Irving is, I think, out for the year. Maybe his is like, he tore his ACL, I'm pretty sure, not his Achilles. So I think it's probably more likely that he comes back than any of these other guys. But I don't think that this is going to be like this massive storybook season for those guys. It should be next year when that happens and they all come back, and it's going to be really cool for a lot of those teams that have invested as much time and resources into them as possible. But not for this year. They'll be in a holding pattern for this year. Then number 5, the final bold prediction. The Nuggets and Lakers will face off in the first round. And Nuggets fans are going to be like, oh, crap. Really? Why? You've got Luka Doncic now. You have LeBron James probably in his final year with the Lakers. They're better. They added DeAndre Ayton, but they still have a good mix of defensive talent. They've still got a whole bunch of offensive threats. I think the Lakers are going to struggle. I think they are going to be the team that's in that top 7 group that struggles the most throughout the year. And I think not having LeBron at the beginning of the season, not knowing what it's going to look like for when he comes back and how often he's going to come back and what it's going to look like from a rotation standpoint and a role standpoint and an expectation standpoint, I just think that they fall to 7. These other teams have higher levels that they can reach. They have a better mix of role players and depth and foundation on the defensive end and things like that. The Lakers are really counting on DeAndre Ayton, Rui Hachimura, and guys like Maxi Kleba to potentially come in. So I think it's going to be the Nuggets at the 2 and the Lakers at the 7, and it'll be a tough series. Like it'll be a tough 5 or 6 game series from the Nuggets perspective. It's not going to be easy because like the Lakers still have a whole bunch of ways to score against a Nuggets team that's going to struggle to defend them. Like, who do you guard Luka with? Who do you guard LeBron with? Who do you guard Austin Reeves with in that case? Going to be tough. Denver will have to figure it out, but I think that they will ultimately be able to do so. But yeah, get ready for that one. Beat LA. It's going to be interesting. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at FanDuel and Mile High Sports. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Like I said, once again, I'm not going to be, unless if there is a major news drop later today on a couple of extensions, then I'll probably podcast tomorrow. If not, I will podcast on Wednesday. We'll do a season opener preview for the Nuggets versus the Golden State Warriors on Thursday and sort of react to a whole bunch of different things that are happening around the NBA. Everybody, have a great week. Continue to be awesome out there. I will talk to you guys very soon.